There's something strangely comforting about watching the world end. Not in real life, but in stories. And no story captures that comfort, that devastation, that ache, quite like The Last of Us. It's not just another zombie apocalypse. It's a meditation on grief, on love, on what we lose and what we cling to when everything else is gone. So why do we keep returning to these stories? Why do we keep watching the world end? And what does The Last of Us reveal about the world we're living in now? Apocalyptic fiction has always been a mirror. In the Cold War, it reflected nuclear dread. In the 2000s, it was terrorism and climate collapse. Now, it's pandemic fatigue, political fragmentation, and the fear that we've already lost something we can't name. The Last of Us doesn't just reflect those anxieties, it embodies them. The cordyceps infection isn't just a biological threat, it's a metaphor for decay, for how quickly civilization collapses when fear takes over. But unlike other zombie stories, The Last of Us isn't obsessed with the outbreak. It's obsessed with what comes after. The silence, the ruins, the people who survive, and what survival costs them. In The Last of Us, the apocalypse isn't just a setting, it's an emotional landscape. Joel isn't just a survivor, he's a man hollowed out by grief. Ellie isn't just immune, she's burdened by the weight of being humanity's last hope. Their journey isn't about defeating the infected, it's about finding meaning in a world that's lost its center. It's about connection in the face of collapse. And that's why the story hits so hard. Because it's not about the end of the world. It's about the end of innocence, the end of trust, the end of who we thought we were. So why do we keep returning to these stories? Why do we binge shows about collapse while living through our own slow motion crisis? Maybe it's catharsis. Maybe it's preparation. Maybe it's a way to feel less alone. The Last of Us doesn't offer easy answers. It offers questions. What would you do to survive? Who would you become? What would you sacrifice? And what would you refuse to lose? And maybe that's the real reason we keep watching. Because in these stories, we see ourselves. Not just our fears, but our hopes, our need to protect, to connect, to love, even when it hurts. There's a Latin phrase, memento mori, remember you must die. Apocalyptic stories are our modern memento mori. They remind us that everything is temporary, that civilization is fragile, that love, loss, and death are inevitable. But they also remind us of what matters: connection, compassion, the small moments that survive even when the world doesn't. In The Last of Us, the apocalypse isn't just a backdrop, it's a crucible. It burns away the noise and leaves behind something raw, something real. One of the most haunting aspects of The Last of Us is its relationship to memory. Characters don't just survive, they remember. Joel remembers Sarah, Ellie remembers Riley, Bill remembers Frank, and those memories shape every decision, every moment of violence, every act of tenderness. The apocalypse doesn't erase the past, it makes it sacred. Old photographs, vinyl records, comic books, they become relics, proof that something beautiful once existed. In a world where the future is uncertain, nostalgia becomes a kind of resistance, a way to say, we were here, we mattered. In most stories, heroes save the world. In The Last of Us, they destroy it to save each other. Joel's final act isn't heroic in the traditional sense. It's selfish, it's violent, it's deeply human. And that's what makes it so compelling. Because in this world, heroism isn't about grand gestures. It's about small mercies, about choosing love over logic, connection over consequence. Ellie's journey in part 2 complicates this even further. Revenge becomes indistinguishable from justice. Mercy becomes indistinguishable from weakness. The Last of Us doesn't give us heroes. It gives us people, flawed, grieving, trying, and maybe that's the most honest kind of heroism there is. The apocalypse isn't just a genre. It's a lens, a way to examine who we are when everything else is stripped away. And The Last of Us shows us that even in the darkest times, there's still love, still grief, still humanity. Maybe that's why we keep watching the world end, because in those endings, we find something worth holding on to. The apocalypse doesn't just destroy, it reveals. And what it reveals is us.